for illumined life to be birthed into form. I am the truth. I am the light. Illumined, beloved, divine.
So hello there everyone, and welcome to this video with me here today. Finally I'm able to record again because we've had some foggy weathers these days and it wasn't really good to go outside. So finally there's some sun, and I'm here just wanting to share probably what is for me, and of course for the collective, the most intimate part of the mission that I've been talking about, and this whole deal with the transgression work. And I know probably a lot of you have not been truly understanding what this was about, or just not really knowing where this is going or leading. But for me, for our team, for the Illumined ones, and specifically for a very small group of beings that somehow I'm related to, I'm connected to, we're one. This was a very important part of the mission, of the journey, to heal, to dissolve, and basically, as you know, we're working with this experiment to end this phenomena of transgression for what my family of light has told me it's been like a really long time. As I've been healing these surges of these dark energies, basically electric dispensations that have been very, offbeat, they've been very just primordially difficult, each time I was releasing a wave, and my body was in pain during each heavy release, a strong release. And each time after each release, actually I've gotten more updates, more insights into the bigger picture, into the bigger story. And as you know, my family has been talking about the grand finale, and I know a lot of you have been probably applying this to your own journeys, but this has only been relating to the Illumined mission, the mission that we're here, have been doing for a long time. There's many beings, actually Illumined beings, invested in ending this phenomena, have been doing this, for quite a long time. However, our specific enclosed group has had this chapter on Earth, and it's just been, let me just say, it's been intense, right? And I'm only going to speak from our group perspective at this time. This is something that, when it was recently presented to me, was very emotional for me to digest, because as much as it's a mission, it's also a love story. It's also a story of love, of sacrifice, and just reverence to life, for all of life. And so I want to take you deeper into the more intimate part of this mission quest. So as I've been going through this, what they called the very grand, one of the last waves, heavy waves releases in my body, which was about, let's just say about a few weeks ago. And I've been in this healing stage, in this recovering mode, probably over a week now. It's been intense. They've been actually guiding me. They've been pulling me away from everything else. I still don't have my phone. I have it, but I actually don't have it set up. So it's been a long story. You just can't, it's almost like I can't force it. And I've always been like that, even though I have an intention. If it's not time, my body won't allow me. I just can't force myself. So this is still kind of like on my to-do list when the time comes. And I think that the reason why this was so is they really wanted me off of everything, like off the grid. They wanted me to just focus on this part to complete this, what they call the grand finale. It's been intense. Let me just tell you that. I've been crying a lot in the last few days. It's been more like a softer cry. It's been like a cry of acknowledging everything. And finally, when you get your answers, but still it's difficult, even though the answers come, Yeah, it's a mailman. The energy is still, it's still difficult, to process. So it's not like just something, even though the insights come, and it's a deep acknowledgement, it feels peaceful, it brings you peace, but it's still a lot of, wow, this was difficult. And it's just that I feel like this last chapter completing before my human self, my humble little human self, actually starts with what they're calling the last chapter of my earth life. So basically, I don't know where to begin, okay? But in this last wave, right, as I've been explaining, a deep insight came, right? The family gathered around me, and they also said, here's the beloved, right? The one that I call by this special name, the chosen name, as I've shared once with you, and this name is just for me to use. But during the transgression stage, I actually, I have had a lot of mix-ups. I've just kind of like mixed everything up, and it was all like so confusing, and I didn't know what's what anymore, but the feeling was always there, right? So let me just start at the beginning. As you know, as I've been sharing with you, I don't, really mind for what people believe. It's not up to them. It's just my story. It's the story of a bigger proportion. Many masters have been coming and sharing, and they've been saying that this transgression chapter, this mission is so grand. Even I, as a human, don't have all the insights, but I have a sufficient amount of puzzle pieces now to bring myself to a resolution of peace. I know that a very important part was fulfilled and completed just recently. So I'm not of earth. I've never been on earth, beings like myself, human beings, we go on quests. We go on mission quests, but these quests are actually, they're very seldom, they're only when something is really of a matter at stake. So remember last year when I was in that basement apartment, and I've been going through what was probably the most horror-like part of my life. The feelings I felt, the things I've seen were just horrible. And I know a lot of people don't want to acknowledge that these atrocities are occurring in our universe, but they are. And this has nothing to do with being either positive or negative. This is simply acknowledging life for all that it is, all the diversities, all the variables. And this phenomena of transgression and the usage of the kind of energies that are so destructive, but it's specifically the usage of these energies against the family of light, against the chosen ones, against those that are basically the illumined guides, the peacemakers, the gatekeepers of this universe. And Aurea is my higher self being. She's one of very important players in, helping the ascension of overall life to keep on moving further. As I've explained, right, me as Aurea, I have a mission partner. I have this beloved, and I've always felt this beloved always in my heart. It's been kind of love that it's beyond earth. And I remember saying this to people I've met, and I've been saying to them, I know I meet many earthmen, but I only have one cosmic beloved, and I always knew that to be true for me, and it was the truth, right? And it's a kind of love that you just know, and it's so deep, so committed, so devoted, that you can't really place it here on earth, and no one on earth that I've met kind of can even come close to that molding of that love and how sacrificial and intended it is. So remember, during that chapter in that dark basement apartment, I've been going through these horrors, and I've been seeing these visions, right? So once I was in this deep meditation state, and I saw a vision of myself, and I was almost like on a board of a craft. It looked like there's a specific mini chamber, and I don't know, you could call it a craft, and I guess these craft stations are kind of like when the missions take place, when we go aboard these missions. And the mission aspect of the being, you have to remember again, we are multidimensional, and this aspect is a star being, right? These are star beings, and I saw myself, I looked very different, and there was like a chamber, and someone was lying there. But the body was non-moving, and I recognized this body as my beloved, but he couldn't, it's almost like he couldn't come back to his body, he couldn't come back to his form, he couldn't back home. And so in the next image, I saw another being approaching me. They offered me a red rose, and as I took upon that rose, the rose had within it like a tiny crystal. It looked like a diamond, and I saw myself swallowing that and kind of digesting it. And I believe, from what I've been, making up from all of this, this was like, when you go on a mission and you have that oath of forgetfulness, that you will forget everything that this is, and you're just gonna go into the mission because you have to forget. That's the thing. An earth aspect, especially when you go to earth, cannot understand and process these things that star beings know and hold, right? So before that, vision, I actually saw a vision of me and my beloved, and we were actually looking at each other through a plexiglass. And suddenly, when we're looking at each other through this glass, the beloved collapsed. And it's almost like he died, right? He collapsed, he became unconscious. And I was like, oh, what's happening? And then I saw this next continued vision. And since then, I had an insight that this was truly a rescue mission, because before the transgression chapter began, this was in 2019 in the fall, let's just say cycle of time here on earth, I've been getting these messages. I was trolling a lot around this clearing space I had back in where I lived. I had my space, and I've been getting so many messages at that time. And in one of the messages, the team came and they were giving me this phrase from the movie, and the movie is called Saving Private Ryan, and it's a movie about someone coming and saving a husband of someone, right? This woman, he went on this mission, and then they had to do this rescue mission for him. I didn't know what was it about at that point. Was it for me? Was it for someone else? You know, I just didn't know. And very shortly after that, they gave me a message. There was a transgression, and I didn't know what's happening. And then all this purging and unveiling began. So all of this took stages, right? And first, a part of me, when in the winter time last year and continuing to this year, this was around December, January timeline, I couldn't, and I didn't want to believe all of these images, because it started, as I've shared with you, this one of the video I recorded about true love in the summer, and I've shared my story with you and what I've been receiving. They were giving me all these insights like my beloved's dead and something's off. But the problem is, I couldn't realize, I couldn't remember back then, because so much was going on and I was in such a low state. And we were wandering around all this time, homeless. But I remember now that even before the transgression, me acknowledging that phenomenon, what actually took place, I had a constant feeling that something's off. And I reminded my mother, and she was like clearly saying, yes, I remember now, because I kept telling her something's off, something's wrong, and I just knew it. And that was before I even realized about transgression, because all this time I felt the beloved, and suddenly all of a sudden something was really badly, deeply off. So in that summer when we were moving around, it was last summer, right? I told you the story how I was actually photographing this white butterfly, and then I was tracing, and suddenly the butterfly flies above the lake, and the fish comes out of the deep and swallows the butterfly. And I instantly knew, oh my goodness, this is about my beloved. I just knew. I don't know how I knew. I just knew. And I was so sad, and I was crying, and I didn't know what's happening. But all my life, most of my messaging system was deeply engraved within my cellular recognition, which was cellular resonance and knowing. This is deep inner knowing. It goes beyond the visions, because as you know, visions can be distorted, because there's lots of phenomena that actually deals with distorting the true telepathic communication coming through team, the communication of true light. So because of that, right, my memory has been encoded all along, even though I didn't have clear memories, like vision memory based, I just knew things. I always knew things, and I had feelings, and I had these instant, whenever there was something off, I always knew it. And I could foretell things this way in my life many, many times, So anyway, last winter, right, when we received those messages first, I panicked. So after a while, when I processed everything, I said, okay, let's do a remote viewing session. And we did this remote viewing session with my mother. I was guiding her, and she was the witness, because she has a very clear, pure, devoted, she has a clearly directed channel. And we traced this, I had this session with someone back then, and my inner child, like my human self, knew when I looked up that basically the station of where these signals were coming from the transgressor, was in the Castor Pollux constellation. Remember, I don't know how I knew. Again, I just blurted it out. I just knew, again, right? It's not something you can verify mentally on Earth. As Earth beings, we still understand so little of greater star-like phenomena and galactic understanding and knowledge. So for me, this Earth reality is so tiny. It's like a bit of 1% of the rest of the 99% of what I am and who we are and what we do in this universe. Like my Earth life is just like one tiny pearl threaded on this whole right rainbow bead of many, many threads, actually. It's multi-scoped and multidimensional. So when we did this remote viewing, we actually saw this kind of like a station, like a military base, and it was all, when you came inside, it was all like lots of glory and richness. It was all like what you would come into a rich man's mansion or something. But below, it would look like there was this underground facility. It almost looked like a basement part, and when we traced that to the origin, there was a masculine, beautiful man lying there on the table, covered in like in white sheath, and he was not moving. He was like in a coma. So we saw that, and of course I panicked, and then I said, no, these were just inceptions, these were inceptions, but actually we were truly remote viewing. And I didn't share that with you. Some of you, maybe some things I shared on Patreon, some things here publicly on YouTube, I don't know. The reason why I'm talking about these things is because I feel I must tell my story, because people need to know everything that's happening in this universe, not just the good, but also the bad, right? Because we need to bring things, like we said, I'm not here to gain anyone's understanding or compassion. We're just here gaining witnesses. That's what it was required so far. It's not so much required right now, they're telling me. It's more like just I need to finish the story and I need to put it out. It's a part of my human healing as well. It's a part of, you know, me reaching this inner peace. So when we saw that, right, and I basically had to let that go for a while, and I just had to focus on my own healing. But during that winter, that dark winter, I had these flashes and visions, and in one of the dream, you know, releases I had was basically I was viewing, and I saw this being approaching me, and I was almost like asleep, and I was like this covered, and he looked at me towards the face, whether I'm breathing or whether I'm awake, and checking up on me, and then he says, "Hello, I'm David," and that was not really his name. It was a false name for me to believe that he is actually the good kind, you know, because there's a whole David lineage, the Jesus kind of lineage, and I knew, you know, really understood why he chose that name, but he was actually one of the bad guys, right? And then he went and he started doing like this with my leg, and my whole right leg was spinning because he used that kind of energy, right? It's magician, dark energy. And so that's actually the leg that I had this huge sciatica pain, and I couldn't even walk, and I still have releases here through this leg. It's like jolts of pain, and they're still coming in through my release days. So anyway, I had to let it go for a while. And this whole spring, we were just, you know, there I tried to heal my body physically, like getting the right nutrition and getting back on track. Then we had to find a place. We moved here where we had to do physical work. Then I told you on September this year, on my birthday, the healing began again, and I started releasing. But the funny thing was, already back in the summer, I had like these waves, and I talked about a lot, right? Remember about the beloved. And I had this very orgasmic wave one sitting here, and I suddenly get this impulse, and I say, "Oh, he's independent now, he's independent now." And I didn't know what I was talking about. And then I was reminded how sitting there in a bench in one of my favorite mountain valleys, there was a transmission of this man coming to me. And then I did the video about, you know, embracing the beloved again. And I talked about this being that I know and love. You know, he's my mission partner, and he's my love, you know, at that level. That's my star-born lover. But it's a different love, you know, that you would know on earth. It's not that like romantic. It's mission based, and because of that it goes deep, because we're being bonded through so many things we've already went through together and experienced. But the reason we can remember them on earth, because some of them are really tragic, you know, tragedies. Some of them are beautiful, and it's just an end game here on earth for us to not recall all of those memories, you know. But you have feelings, and those feelings for me, they could never be ripped away. No matter how they tried, right, they couldn't deny this feeling in me. So in a way, when this being came to me through the transmission, that back then he said, I'm okay, you know, no one will love you like me. And that was basically the message. Remember. And I didn't know what that means, you know, whether he's here, alive, somewhere else. I still had it a lot confused, because after transgression, I basically confused a lot of the things, who's what, where, you know. But this summer, I finally realized, right, he's not a physical being on earth. And then I realized, because after one of my releases, right, when my inner child was actually accessing this, and he was crying a lot, it's almost like I was saying goodbye to him, and I was mourning him finally, and I was saying, you know, maybe he died, you know. And I just had to let him go. And I said, you know, I just trust everything's okay. And then I got this message, he's on another star. And so things continued, and I had to then go through a very profound physical release. And I'll explain a little more about this. I just want to finish here by saying that I had to do this work in a way blindfolded. I couldn't get all the details because, you know, I would get too emotional. So now at the end, they were presenting everything to me because the mission was completed. I'll reveal more about this release process, but I want to give you the good news. Finally, you know, I couldn't before because my body was in such distress. And even now they came to me, they were telling me that they're helping me through basically lessen the cortisol, which is stress hormone levels in my body, because that's basically what affects me negatively, because my body absorbed a lot of these energies and this timeline. And so they're helping me with many things now. So during that last stage of when they said it's a grand finale and they said he's with us already back then, and he approached me, but I was so much still emotional after this huge release, and my whole body was twitching and contracting and all of that. So I just said, okay, I was still at a minimum level of receiving. I had to go through another week of just slow body adaptation and really a gentle approach. I was a lot just with my inner child. As you know, I suffered from insomnia. Just in the last 2 nights, I got some good sleep, which is so rare for me. I'm finding ways and methods and going early and really pampering myself, and it's kind of working. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It's still shifting. But after one of very clear, coming back to life in the morning, suddenly I was starting meditation with my deep breathing. I'm doing, as you know, lots of tantric yoga cultivation again, which super accelerated the process for my body, and that was the last step, right, that I needed actually. And suddenly they come to me and they tell me, they said that he, said he's with us now, he's okay, and then they say he's in recovery mode just like you, but it's all good now. And suddenly I had these flashes of, oh, that was all true, it all took place. And I started crying because I had this feeling, even in my whole body, I felt something released. There was a feeling of, because before it was all like work, it's still not over, and then it felt like it's done, it's done. It just feels like I'm still having these necessary things to do, preliminary, precautionary, things and methods and ways for my body to continue to heal and to be brought back to its renewal. And they said that's recovery mode now, and I had this feeling for a while. But it was also relating to him, and he came to me and he said, thanks to you, this all took place. He said, only thanks to you. You're the stronger one here. He said, you're the stronger one here. And then I said, okay, I just want to give myself time again to finally now see what was real and what wasn't. And then I realized when they would told me before, even before this last wave, they said that this was actually a rescue mission. And they showed me that this has to do with many star children, basically, who were transgressed. And as I've said, they learn how to basically enslave and manipulate the astral body. So these beings would, they use these electric, very detrimental energies to basically keep one that's very sentient, sensitive being, right? Because luminous light beings, we're very sentient, we're very sensitive. As strong as we are, we're also very deeply sensitive and vulnerable because of our purity. So, it's not easy to go in these missions, and it's not also self-obvious and, just taken for granted, There's always a slight amount of risk to go in these missions to assist. But this was a huge project, so each time someone would volunteer, and we wanted to trace the origin of these energies, how they impact us, and these Illuminatorian beings, right? The Aurea team told me we needed to study these energies so we can also help to heal all of those who were undergoing these electric tortures, basically, right? Who were going through these experiments on them and all of that. So when I was going right through the dark winter apartment, that timeline, I was actually feeling all that my beloved was going through there, on another star. And basically they were keeping his body in this almost like induced coma, when we do as humans. It's not a good thing when we're trying to prolong someone's life. I had a feeling, that was my own assumption, that when he went in the mission, he was somehow intercepted, and basically through these electric discharges they managed to pull him in. And what they do, they use these electric discharges to unlock you, so they're keeping you bound to a prism of the matrix. So you can't freely, when let's say a mission is complete and you do something, you can go back home, all of your bodies. And they use the astral bodies to, it's a kind of astral voodoo kind of technique. But I saw these electric energies are keeping you bound, so you can't really leave. All of the soul cannot discharge from the body and in accelerated motion go back home. So when the Illuminatorians have this, what we call the pulsar, right? When I was doing the pulsar, this was very helpful. And these discharges release, they help release a lot of these, right, these dispensations. So they told me that this, from the start, from the get-go, was my experience. Not just experience, but it was my project as Aurea. They said that as Aurea, I guided this whole initiative because they said, well, for a queen to go on a mission, they said that's not typical. Usually the queens, the feminines, they don't go, you know, they don't go like this, they don't risk. But they said it was such a heavy risk that we had to make an exception. And I knew already back then, before I went here on earth, that this was actually the only way. It was the only way for us to truly do that, because somehow along the way I saw this beloved being intercepted. And I saw it even in the chamber, like he was there, his body, his real body was there in a sleep state, because before we do the missions, that's what, you know, these are long stories, not everyone understands this, not even me as a human, but basically you have a real body that's there. But you can't come home to that body, right, when you are transgressed, and basically all of your soul cannot return. And I assume that's what happened to this beautiful being, and he's so beautiful I cannot even, you know, start to describing, right? And so when they were showing me this, they were saying this was actually my project and I was the one to lead, and I said that's the only way to go. So we went as a team. I went physically into an incarnation, and this Illumined team stayed with me. They were always with me. And they needed me to actually undergo the same amount of treatment. They basically traced their signal to the earth. And I just still don't know why earth, because, you know, the beloved was not on earth. But I think it had to do with physically getting, understanding how these energies affect physicality, right? It's basically physical, then the astral, then all the other levels. They had to go a level back. That's what I'm assuming. So to study these energies, they would know how to find the way to bring someone back to life and discharge these essences, right, of these distorted electric discharges. That's what I was seeing. So basically me to go was as an act of love, true love for your mission partner, for the one you love, for your beloved, and not just for him, but it was a whole star crew and a whole star mission. I was seeing that, you know, it was a rescue mission of the star children, because by studying these energies also, they couldn't know really how to alleviate those energies. They didn't know how to basically release them once they're caught in the body. That's what also took place with us. They showed me that for the time being, and somewhere in the middle in the period, they didn't know actually. They came to a halt in my body because they studied these energies, but when it was time for them to be released, it wasn't all going well. And this is the time when I prayed a lot. And I truly believe that God, that's what I was seeing, that God, you know, in all his almighty glory and power and love and its infinite wisdom of divine intelligence, he created a divine intervention for us so they could find a way to actually start finally knowing how to dispel these energies out of the body. Because I told you, for such a long time they were caught in the body. They were moving, but they couldn't go out, even with all the usages we were doing. And basically these energies were also entrapping me in a very low state. So during that time I assisted the beloved, and he was already fine, right? But then I was, and then they had to find a way for me. And this was always the plan, because I sacrificed myself, and they had enough understanding. They said, now we have enough understanding to know how these energies affect the body. And with God's assistance and with God's divine intervention, basically, we found a way to help release them. Because I saw still a lot of star beings being caught in these matrices and believing that's where they belong and that's where they need to be. But not truly. They're being held here in prison. A lot of these star beings that once, let's say, they went on a call and they had a desire for this experience of earth and they went on a mission, but these energies intercepted them. So a lot of beings don't know, because even, you know, I told you I had constant memories and I had dream visions and I had sleep paralysis for 10 years, since 2010 it began for me. And they were already doing all these things, but I didn't wake up from it, like to truly realize before it was time, right? Before enough of the pulsar illumined light intelligence was activated through me. And then I had this knowing something's off, and then all the steps had to be unfolded, right? All the steps had to be laid out. So what then took place, right? They said that during that time, they didn't know. They were kind of like in a jam. We didn't know how to release them. That was probably in the time when I was the most in pain, and that's why it took over 2 months now for me to realize to be in such pain now. It was almost enhanced for a while. But then it started, you know, being alleviated. I had such huge migraine headaches, and, you know, I think the brain was trying to process all this information. And the cortisol levels, and, you know, that also causes insomnia and memories and all these things, and mixed up like who's who, what's what. There was so much basically that the body was going through. And then they also told me, they said no one so far from everyone who was here of us, of advanced beings, they said no one has done such miracles with the body intelligence as you have. They said, you've done miraculous things with the body. I'm not talking about, the yogis in India who can do, I don't know, great things in yoga and meditation. No, I'm talking about when your body is so digressed, so transgressed, and you survive, and you live, and you start doing with this. They said no one has done it before. They're saying how many are still locked in this, right? So basically, I believe that me and my beloved, we went out because the call went out there from so many star beings, and Queen Aurea and King, I know his name, and I'm not gonna say his name, not yet at least. I don't feel ready yet. This is very intimate for me. And I believe we went out there. This is very rare. I don't believe we go in directly same time, because that's very risky. We go like one by one. But I believe, what I received so far is he was somehow picked along the way. He was interjected. I don't know whether they found new ways or what they've done. I don't know. But what I know is that then I had to go. It was the only way to save him and to save the mission and to continue with the mission. So during that time, right, we were gathering witnesses, not just here, the physical beings being woken up to this phenomena, but also beings who are not physical, but they're somehow, let's say, around the earth plane and around those timelines that still experience that phenomena. So these witnesses, all in their unanimous call, brought forth this energy, and we kind of managed to put it there in front of the White Council, Illumined Council of Light. And when the Illumined Council decides something, they decide. So the reason why these things were able to go on for such a long time is because there weren't enough witnesses. It was able to happen in the dark, and that's how darkness operates. If you can manage to hide something for such a long time, and there's not enough acknowledgement, there's not enough light quotient that goes there, just like on earth, right? We have all these things happening because not a lot of people are yet woken up to what's happening. The manipulation of the dark continues, and people believe it's all normal and it's for the good, but it's actually not serving them. It's actually serving against the spirit of humanity, the liberty, the love, the liberation of the soul, and it's basically aiming to enslave it and to pour out the love aspect of humanity with all these obstructions that basically deny the human spirit that love, that basically deprive the human spirit of love, and put all these tactics like isolation, and all these things they're doing. So it's all just a continuation. This advancement of the dark has so many layers, but this transgression, right, when it begins with this false light, which is this distorted light that goes out of hand like a mad lab scientist, right? We all know these stories, right? And this really went off the chart. So when we were able to report that to the Illumined Council, what they told me then was they have a restraining order. Like, they can't come near me, like, at all. That's why I don't have these dream paralysis and happenings at night anymore. But during the winter timeline, I truly believe I was witnessing the horrors that the beloved actually experienced. Like when they were experimenting on his body and keeping it falsely in that state. What I feel now, genuinely, I believe that body had to die. Whatever kind of form that body was in, I believe it had to die, because that was the last step. It had to take place, the body to give up, and then the soul to be released, the essence to be released. So I say all these things to my mother just this week, and you won't believe what happened. A while ago, I told her, I said, I have a feeling you're going to receive something in the dream. And I've always been a knower. I always know these things. She's had some profound insights through her dreams and, visions. And she had first this, in her dream, she saw a man lying on the table. And then we did the remote viewing to trace that to its origin and what took place. So that being, I showed him many, the name David, that isn't really that being. It's not a man, it's a being. It's not his name. So that won't be able to happen anymore. But the mission is still ongoing. It doesn't acquire one being to do that. I can't, I'm not a savior of anyone. We had to go through ourselves to see what's happening. There was no other way. And for the Illumined Council to study these energies. And now they have a sufficient amount of data to find the antidote and to find the remedying light techniques that work, and they're going to be helping the light family that's still encased. They said there's quite many that are still in the prism, right? But we've done the first part. We've rescued my beautiful king, my beautiful beloved, and I'm not religious in the traditional sense, but I would truly just do like this and say, thank God, amen. I'm just so thankful, because that brought me such peace to know that he's okay and he's in recovery mode just like me. So when I said this to my mother, and I told her just a while about the dream vision, she suddenly goes like, oh my goodness, I remember now, I forgot to tell you. I was just napping on the couch and I dozed off, and then I woke up. I remember the vision I was getting in the dream, and I saw a man lying in the dark, almost like, you know, this black coverings, and he suddenly pulls it off, and he steps behind one of these like beautiful walls you can have in a room, you know, like Spanish walls. It was all white. He steps all naked behind this curtain and receives like a curtain shower of a golden light, and he was all beautiful like Adonis and showered with light. I'm like, yes, yes, that's him, that's him, that's him. You know, it was a clear sign, right? He released that death and the stagnation that was falsely perpetuated on his being, and I'm just so happy. Just so happy. I can't hide my happiness, you know. It's been such hard work, and he said it's all because of you, my queen. You know, because of you, I'm now fine. And the thing is, first yesterday I got these insights, and I was still like, okay, it was still informational, but today it really hit me. Today I went into my emotional levels, and I'm processing everything. I need lots of peace and just be with myself in quiet and solitude, and pray, continue praying. And I'm so thankful to the all-loving God, because if you haven't believed in God, you know, like, you don't know what the kind of miracles you can create with the intelligence of the divine, not just your own intelligence, but the all-seeing divine nature of what we call God, our loving creator, creatrix. So I knew that God stepped in, because we kind of got in a jam. I felt it in my body, like, I can't. And I was so stuck. I couldn't even start doing tantric yoga. I was so stuck. These energies were holding me, because that's what these energies do. You can have great intention, but they're like holding you. They're holding you locked in, and it's really difficult to explain the nature of these energies. So you can imagine already what I felt and the amplification of what my beloved felt. I mean, I know that I don't have all the data and all the details, because I'm still an earth human, half, and my human is like, oh, you know, you get in this horror-like mode when you know these things, but they are happening. They have been happening. And that's why these missions exist, to dispel this phenomenon, like completely uproot it once and for all. But we had to have enough understanding and illumine light, stamina, and quotient to bring that to the High Council and them seeing. Because the moment the council sees, these things and beings can no longer hide and stay hidden in what they do. And recently I've gotten also the guidance that God will, for every amount of an upsurge of pain, will bring gifts now, bearing of the gifts for every amount of pain. I've been getting this messages, right? So I'm processing all of this. It's still very intense for me, but now I feel a part of me just has to let that go. I don't have all the insights, what took place before us leaving here, where he was, what it was happening. I don't have all the details, and I don't believe I will get them. I believe they will only give me the sufficient amount of what I need to know, because everything that is beyond that amount can be detrimental for my human. You know, my human still has to live and be carefree and happy too. So they were showing me it's now best to let go. It's enough that I know that my beautiful Adonis-like beloved, this beautiful being, he's okay, he's safe, and he will recover, and I will recover too. And when I do, and when I complete the last chapter of my earth journey, I will return, and that's when we will reunite back home. But it's not over yet, right? And I have this feeling, no, there's chapters of my earth life that now my human self has to go through and needs to move through and needs to receive as a gift, because this human, this Polona human, had to sacrifice a lot. I had to sacrifice everything. This star mission came first. That's what they said. You no longer have a mission. We're nearing its end. And now the earth being has to just unwind from all of that, heal the body to finally feel the tender love and care that it's okay, that this will never happen again. It's still leftovers, right? We still have to bring this healing, like the Illuminatarian said. We need to remedy a lot of beings who are still being kept by these energies. Some of them not even at the level of being aware. But what we did here will spread out. It will spread out into the whole, into the entire Star Collective, which, I don't know, just brings me to tears. By knowing the grandiose nature and the super badass qualities that Aurea has as the queen. And I know here I'm just an ordinary human. That's what I look to be, just like anyone else. Although I'm not truly a human. There's just my experience. It's just been an experience for me to get the mission done. But until my human experience is complete and I get the love and I get some of the things I've really been wanting to manifest in my life, things of the physical nature have to be completed now. The last few steps that I believe that God will kind of weave together so that it can have my happy ending. on earth as well. And then we're going to go back home and we will see. I think that when I return, I will know the whole story, because here I still have a limited amount of my memory, but I do know a lot. They told me I know most, I know more than most do, because I am the leader of this mission. They said Aurea, as the Queen Feminine, as the Royal Feminine of that lineage, right? It's the star lineage. It had to be me, and it had to be us. And yes, it got tricky, it got complicated. It was a detour. It was a mini detour, but nonetheless, I believe that even detours are that which we need to get to the bottom of solving each mission. And I believe we had many. And because of that, we have skills, you know, and these skills will persevere. Sometimes it just takes time for a spiral to complete itself and create a whole circle. So that was the story. And I think now for my human self to just be returned to life, to go through this last healing steps, to do my physical steps. And I've shared this story. I had to share all the parts, especially this beloved aspect of it, and how this was really a rescue mission, they said. But I couldn't know since the beginning, because then I would feel pressure, right? They said you couldn't have known before, because then I'd feel pressure, and under pressure no one works good. You still have a human aspect. They had to consider the human aspect. So the human aspect had to do it blindfoldedly. And that's basically what eventually got us to do more than if I had my full awareness all the time. The awareness is growing, but I also feel it's time for me to let it go, to let my star mission beloved go as well. He's in his own place. I'm here. And until we come together one day, I have to live my earth life. I have to fulfill my last earth mission steps to complete everything as above, so below, and so below as above. So it will still take some time, but I had to share my story. I had to share with all those of you who are interested in the truth, the whole truth, not just the filtered truth of love and light. And by knowing more, you grow in your power, because what you don't know about or of, it has the power to manipulate you from behind the scenes, right? But what you're aware of doesn't and cannot. You gain power, you gain self-awareness and control instead of someone else controlling you. So that was my message, story, and sharing. As you know, I'm still here. I still have great gifts of insight, spirit, direct channeling, and the purest qualities that, you know, I can offer at this time. So anyone who's willing to work with me as I'm still here, still treading the earth plane, can do so. You know, my sessions are available again. I had to go through a deep healing part now for the, you know, last few weeks. During that stage, my body was also feeling very sick. And when I release, I have restless leg syndrome. I can't sleep. I have insomnia. Then I'm not rested in the morning. Then, you know, so many things. And I had to really tend to the body. But I feel I'm getting stronger again in the physical. So if you're willing to work with me, you can find all the details on my working page, Garcilla Pina Light, under personal services, or you can join my Patreon work. I have a little delays this month in providing the content, but it's all going out there soon, as always, in divine timing. So it's a beautiful blessing to, I think, and I believe, to complete the story. And I believe these beings will continue to work with star family members who have been transgressed in a way. So we will bring them all back to life eventually, and to continue with the mission. It's always a beautiful quest, service to love and Almighty God, Lord of all life, life force of the infinite, Holy Spirit, and all the truth that the beauty of God is. So thank you for listening to the story, and especially thank you for those who've been supporting me all these years. I know this is not for everyone. It's not going to be compassionately received by everyone, and that's okay. I don't mind, but I wanted to complete the story for also those of you who do care, who do feel love and compassion, and you know that's not just been about me. My mission was to serve many, many who got entrapped, who got lost, and who were unable to help themselves during the time being. And it started with my beloved, but it continues with the rest of the entirety of the group collective of our family of light. So anyway, thank you for listening, for paying attention, and maybe going through the videos I've shared before. I did beautiful summarization of these concepts last winter, you know, the transgression journey and healing, and some of the things would still apply. So go back, you know, time is truly a spiral. Sometimes we have to revisit something, and, you know, just like I had to go through myself. So I wish you the beautiful full moon. This full moon is bringing a lot. I'm not really a fan of moons, actually, usually, you know, what the moons are, but I'm feeling lots of love and peace through this one. It feels like something is really completing. It will continue, but for now, I feel nothing but deep peace for putting that booklet, that chapter of the booklet aside, and just, going on with the rest of my physical life and trying to find joy no matter what took place, because when you go through such horrors, it's sometimes difficult to still find joy, but it's something I believe I'm capable of doing, and I will continue to do no matter how bleak this reality feels sometimes. So I'm still here as long as some people have to be served, I guess. So I'm here available, and I hope also to see you on my working page on Patreon called Illumined Ascension. I greet you until then, and as always, so much love, wisdom, and power. Thank you for being my loving, loyal companions, those few of you who are, and the rest of you, thank you for watching at least. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.